So my name is Andy Madeira. I'm the CEO of the East Bay Asian Local Development Corporation. Most people just know us as Ibaltsi. Sure, I've been the CEO of Ibaltsi now for about a year and a half. Ibaltsi is a 47-year-old community development corporation, which means that we do a bunch of things that are really designed to improve the quality of people's lives in the neighborhoods in which we work. So we were started in Oakland, Chinatown, 47 years ago by a group of graduate students from UC Berkeley, one of whom is actually still on our board 47 years later. We are actually the largest commercial landlord in Oakland, Chinatown. But we also work a lot in East Oakland and West Oakland, here along the San Pablo Avenue corridor as well. So I think that the City Council, I think that the city staff, and really the citizens of Oakland, they really have the will to provide more housing in the city of Oakland. And I think that it's pretty well recognized that we need more affordable housing. We need more housing, period. But we certainly need a lot more housing that is really restricted to Oakland's most vulnerable residents. It's hard to develop affordable housing. It takes a long time to go through the entitlement and planning process. The city has done a lot to make that process faster, but just by its nature, it's a lengthy process. And then really the biggest impediment to providing more housing in Oakland is frankly money. The financing side to develop affordable housing is super complicated. It's very esoteric. It requires a number of subsidy sources from the federal government, the state, local governments, in order to really bring all those subsidies together to be able to build affordable housing that can bring down rents to a level that low-income people can afford. It's something that we have to work on locally, but it's also something that we have to join with other advocates and people who care about affordable housing to advocate for more funding from the state, more funding locally as when bond measures are put on the ballot, and then more funding from the federal government as well. So in order to help long-term homeowners in Oakland stay in Oakland, we have to make it more financially sustainable for them to be able to stay here. And so some of that is really around quality of life issues, is really going to be around schools, is really going to be around access to affordable and accessible public transit. And then some of that has got to be around also, to the extent that people have needs in their homes to be able to stay, that organizations like Ibaltsi or other types of organizations are able to help them with those needs. So it might be modifications to their homes in order to be able to let them stay longer, because maybe they have modifications that need to be made for a handicap ramp or other accessibility issues. Sometimes they may need just to do upgrades to their home in order to be able to make it safe and comfortable. So new roofs, new windows. The other pressure that people are having is market pressure. So we know that there's market pressure in East Oakland. We know there's going to be continuing market pressure in West Oakland. And we really need to work with the city to find creative ways to encourage those homeowners who are there now to be able to stay and access some of the equity in their home so that they don't need to sell and leave. So people who rent are also under pressure to leave Oakland as well, because we have seen rents really increase in Oakland over the past, let's say, 5 years. Some of that is preservation. Organizations like Ibaltsi going out and acquiring apartments and then keeping rents steady to be able to allow people to stay in those rental units. And some of it is really production. We just really need to produce more housing in Oakland in order to keep rents at a steady level. So that could be rent restricted housing. the type of housing that Ibaldi builds. It could also be what we call middle income housing. So housing that isn't necessarily income restricted, but is really designed to meet a more affordable middle income market. Those are the parts of the housing ecosphere in Oakland that we need to build more of. We also need to make sure that nonprofit affordable housing developers have access to land. So sites develop affordable housing. The city does have a policy where they have access to land. Their first use is for affordable housing. But we need to really continue that to make sure that there are sufficient sites to be able to develop for organizations like Ibaldi. We're also coordinating with another important agency is the Oakland Housing Authority. So OHA, as it's known, is really a separate agency from the city itself. It has its own board of directors. It has its own funding sources that are really outside the city, but it's also a super important component of the housing provision ecosphere here in Oakland. So they provide vouchers that help supplement people's rents, and they also provide direct subsidy to projects. We actually joint venture quite a bit with the Oakland Housing Authority. So we work together with them to develop housing. They've been an excellent partner really over our 45 years of developing here in Oakland. So I'm speaking to you from the California Hotel here on San Pablo Avenue. This is a historic building that was a hotel. It was in the Green Book, this sort of famous catalog of hotels where if you were Black, you were able to stay here. And we had a lot of famous jazz musicians stayed here at the California Hotel when they're performing along 7th Street at the venues there. It's been since renovated. It's now a senior property providing affordable housing for 135 senior households. We also provide a lot of services here for our clients through Lifelong Medical, whose offices are actually right over here. The housing element process is really an important process for all cities throughout California to engage in, to plan to develop more affordable housing for all of our citizens. It is a mandatory process that the state has imposed on cities, but even if they weren't imposing it, it is really something that it's important for everybody who lives in the city of Oakland to get knowledgeable about, to advocate for, in order to really provide more housing for all of Oakland's citizens.